The Legal Curve Summer Series continues with Jets prospect, Moose goaltender Thomas Milic. Thomas, how's it going? How was your summer?
It's doing real good. Yeah, I'm super pumped to be back, but definitely enjoyed my summer. I was back home in Vancouver for most of it, and obviously beautiful place to be in the summer, and lots to do. So I kept busy.
So we last saw you technically I saw you today at at the getting ready for the prospects tournament, but we last saw you in July at the development camp. So how do you spend your summer in terms of training and obviously getting some time in with family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this summer obviously we had a bit of a longer summer than I'm used to for the last few years, and really got to take some time away from the rink, or try to at least. It's hard to completely get away from hockey when playoffs are going on and you're watching Stanley Cup and all that, but I definitely spent some time with the family and got to get away for a bit. Spent some time in the Okanagan as well, which is obviously another beautiful place to be. And then obviously as summer continues, training starts to ramp up, and I've got a pretty good training group that we all skate and work out together, so it's a lot of fun.
I know, is that a group you've had for a while, or is that a newer kind of group together?
Yeah, it's a group I've had for, I think it's probably my third or fourth year now. A lot of the same guys, some new ones coming in and out, but we have a good time.
Now, when you mentioned the Stanley Cup playoffs and watching that, I'm always curious, like, how does an athlete watch it? Do you watch it like you were still a fan, or do you watch it more from a, trying to learn perspective?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, obviously I try and watch it as a fan, but it's hard not to, analyze everything the guys are doing, especially as a goaltender, getting to watch some of the guys that are, playing at the highest level, and, just seeing what they do when it comes down to high pressure moments. So definitely watched as a fan, but also took some time to see what guys are doing and see if I can add anything to my game.
Well, what were your takeaways from the dueling, Panthers and Oilers netminders and that phenomenal 7-game series?
Oh man, that was so fun to watch. But I think just the biggest thing is how even when those guys might have a bad game, they just respond right away, and it doesn't faze them at all. So it's cool watching how those guys prepare for the games, and you see a little behind the scenes that they show on TV as well. So I'm just a pleasure to watch.
So when your season ended with the Moose, like you said, it was a little earlier than you used to. Usually, when you're in your WHL days, you're challenging for championships, Memorial Cups. But when your season ended with the Moose, you had a really good season, which we've obviously detailed throughout the last year. But when you did have that kind of exit interviews with the team, what was the focus that they really wanted you to kind of hone in on? And obviously with goaltending coach Drew McIntyre, who you've said you've created a really good relationship with him, but from the team's perspective, what did they kind of say to you? Hey, this is the thing we want you to, to work on, because generally speaking, when we talk to, forwards or defensemen, it's get bigger, faster, stronger, but generally now a goaltender is a little bit of a different animal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing that we focused on right at the beginning, once we lost, was just realizing that, it was, pulling all the positives from the season that just happened. Because obviously I'm someone who got a little bit used to going on deep playoff runs, and all of a sudden having a early exit like that, it was, something that I took pretty hard and almost a little bit personal. So I think it was just, realizing that, there was a lot of great takeaways from that season and I have a lot to be proud of. So I think really just realizing that was where I started. And then, from there we got a little more technical, being able to, there's a bountiful amount of video that we can watch on the season prior. So just being able to pull little details and things that obviously you have a lot of time to work on in the summer that you might not have time during the season. So I think it was, just good for me to slow it down a bit and, not be afraid to make mistakes, because in season you don't want to change too much.
Thomas, you mentioned about the idea of you took it personally. So is there, again, a value to that, in the sense that, like, it wasn't all on you. I mean, hockey's a team game, but the idea being that you can use that sort of feeling as kind of fuel for you moving forward.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, it's not like I'm blaming everything on myself, but just you always want to push yourself to be better. And I think that's something that I've always had, that mindset, just being able to learn from mistakes and just try and give the team the best chance regardless. So I think it's definitely something that I use as motivation personally, and I'm excited for this coming season.
So you go back home, and how often do you kind of interact with? I mean, Mark Morrison's just in the neighborhood over, obviously in Victoria, but from Drew McIntyre's perspective, how often are you hearing from those guys? How often do you check in? How often do they check in, just to kind of see how things are going, and maybe if you have a question or they have something that they want to bounce off of you?
Yeah, no, the bulk of my communication in the summer was with Drew McIntyre, DMAC, and it was really great getting to work with him this summer as well. Even though we didn't see each other, but just having him in contact with my goalie coach back home, and they can exchange video and talk about certain concepts and ideas and all that, and just being able to have someone that I can, just call anytime and ask questions, or if I just have anything on my mind, he's always there and always willing to help.
So what's that like? I mean, again, goaltending is such a unique position. So from your, you have a goalie coach that rely on. I don't know how long you've been working with him, but you've had a relationship with them, and Drew has his style. How do you kind of meld them so it works for you? Because of course you've got your own style.
Yeah, of course. I've always been a big believer in trying to take bits and pieces from different guys. So whether that's, professional guys that I'm watching, my favorite goalies growing up, obviously I'm, just an example. I grew up a big Jonathan Quick fan, but I'm not trying to play like Jonathan Quick. So just being able to take bits and pieces. And, I think the same applies to coaches as well. You're not going to love every single thing that all your coaches say. So, being able to have that line of communication where you can, bring up an idea, you can talk about it, see if it works, if it doesn't. And, I think having two separate minds like that are also working together is, it's pretty cool having those resources.
Well, you mentioned that first year, and it was an impressive rookie season for you. I mean, you went down, you had a lot, and we're going to get to some of it, and we've talked about it, obviously, but it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of a refresher from your perspective, because you said you went back and you watched some tape. Maybe what was your biggest takeaway from your first season as a pro?
Yeah, I think just the biggest takeaway is, proving to myself and everyone else that, I belong at this level. And it's something that, I'm going to keep pushing forward to, keep earning my spot every single day. Because, the biggest thing about pro hockey is that, nothing's really given. So just being able to establish myself as, someone that belongs to be here and can have success at this level is, my goal going forward.
So we know how often, how important, gameplay is. How important is it practice and having good practice habits? And it seems like it's an obvious question, but you hear about guys who don't necessarily have the best practice habits. From your perspective, in terms of getting yourself to that next level, which obviously everybody's goal is the NHL, but so how important is it to refine that in practice and really work on your craft in that manner?
Oh yeah, practice is huge. I'm someone who takes pride in being a good practice player, and I think I've also been pretty fortunate having some good goalie partners the last couple of years. In Seattle, I had Scott Ratzlaff. In Norfolk, I had Yaniv Peretz, and then last year sharing the net with Colin Delia. Those are all guys that love to compete in practice and push each other. So I think it's really good having that healthy competition every single day. And obviously you want to have that internal motivation to have good practice habits, but having a guy at the other end of the ice that's willing to push you to your limit, and you're doing the same for him, I think it's really beneficial.
So how important is that to have someone that you can not necessarily be, mentor you to a certain degree, but again, you learn from Drew McIntyre, you learn from your goalie coach back home, a guy like Colin Delia, who obviously, you had in the net with you last year. How important was, him and his experience and his life experience, I guess the same word I'm using, but for you in terms of, showing you what it's like to be a pro and some of the elements, like obviously, how to play in the net, but just some of the things that he could show you that maybe you weren't familiar with.
Yeah, no, that's so factual, because I think there's probably not a better guy I could have had for my first year pro to really show me the ropes. And like you said, he's just someone who can, I can talk to about anything in life. It's not just, strictly on the rink. So I think he was just someone that, we'd have long talks on the ice, just talking about certain concepts, ideas, and, what works and what doesn't. And, we'd get off the ice and, he'd be telling me about, some of his passions outside of the rink that, I found quite interesting. How he finds the balance in life of, not just taking every second of every day to think about hockey and, getting away from the rink. So I think he was, super thankful to share the net with him last year, and, really just grateful for that.
So Thomas, people in this market are focused on, a lot of different sports, but our focus here on Illegal Curve and generally speaking is the Jets and the Moose. And the Norfolk Admirals, who of course became the ECHL affiliate of the organization, it seems removed, right? The ECHL seems like a completely, we hear about it occasionally. Guys go down there. There's a benefit. We've seen that with whether it's goaltenders or, I remember Jeff Milic went there and started with the Florida Everblades. So there's guys who get a benefit to doing that and then making that sort of transition. But for a lot of us, the ECHL doesn't seem like not that it's not real, but it's just, you don't really focus on it to the same degree, of course, as the NHL and the AHL. You had your chance to kind of get your feet wet. Mark Morrison, when I've talked to him, talked about how important that was for your development. You've mentioned that to me when I've asked you about it, but just from the sort of perspective, because again, you're coming from the WHL, and I'm not saying you were, not aware of the ECHL, but what did you learn about the ECHL? What were kind of the things that, even set it apart from the AHL that folks maybe take for granted?
Yeah, no, I think just when I went down there, I was really impressed with actually how well connected it was with the rest of the organization. We had, seemed like every week we'd have, Jimmy Roy, Mike Keane, or Drew McIntyre as well coming into town and working with the guys and, just really, holding that line of communication, even when, you're playing, on the other side of the country pretty much, or other side of North America. So I think really just, like you said, not taking it for granted, just being able to realize that there's great players at every level you're going to go to, and really just trying to get anything you can out of every single day that you're down there.
Well, I mean, it was kind of a whirlwind. You were packing your bags and traveling all over the place. And one of the places you went to was Davos, Switzerland, of course, for the Spengler Cup. So what was that like when you get asked to wear your Canadian jersey, which I know you've done before, but to put on the Team Canada jersey, to go to Davos, play in the Spengler Cup? And again, I know we've had a conversation about it, but now that you're reflecting back on it, now that you've had some time to kind of think about what that did and how that could impact your career, what did that mean to you? And maybe, talk about that experience that you gained from being overseas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was, just one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, being to be a part of that team. And yeah, just going over there and experiencing, what hockey's like over there, the European crowds, the style of play, and, how, different things can be on the other side of the world. So I think just, I honestly, that whole experience went by super fast, and, I wish I could have, relived it and really continue to enjoy that moment, because it was a special thing.
Now, were you able to bring any of your family? Because I know a lot of times families get a chance to go and be a part of it. Was your family part of it at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's one of the biggest things that they really preach, is that it's an experience not only for you but for your family. And, I had my parents and my girlfriend all came, and they really had a great time as well, being able to explore the city and really just enjoy Europe. And for myself personally, I've never been to Europe at all prior to that. And being in Switzerland at Christmas time is not a bad place to start.
Not a bad place to start at all. So we've been looking back, and I'm going to just look back with you for a little bit longer, then we'll start to look ahead. But one of the things I'm curious about is your most memorable moment from from your first year as a pro, because you only get one first year as a pro, and there's so many new experiences that, even though, like I said, it's the same game you play in junior, the experience is different at the whether it's the American Hockey League level or the National Hockey League level. So from your perspective, if you can look back in time, what was probably your kind of biggest standout moment from the last year?
Oh man, there's so many great moments, but it's on, I know it's a cliche answer, but it's actually hard to pick one for me. It's something that, I have so many fond memories looking back on last year, but I think the biggest thing was just, being a part of a group that's, it's a big life transition for a guy like me to go from playing with, 16 to 20-year-olds, and then all of a sudden being a part of a group where, guys have wives and kids on the team, and, really just having that sense of belonging. But for a individual moment, I think probably my first AHL shutout in Milwaukee was, something that was pretty special for me. Just seeing how happy the guys were for me, and, just seeing, late in that game, how every single guy was putting their body on the line to help me get that done. So I think that's something that I'll look back fondly on for a while.
Well, that leads into my next question is about mementos. Do you keep mementos? Are you the kind of guy who keeps like, for example, the puck from your shutout win, or maybe the jersey, that sort of thing? Do you do that kind of thing? And if so, like what kind of things have you kept in the past and maybe from the season?
Yeah, no, that's something that the equipment staff do a great job of doing is, giving you little mementos. They actually, have a cool system where they print it on the puck and the score, the date, and who we're playing against and all that. But for me, I'd say jerseys is probably the biggest thing that I like to keep. I've obviously been fortunate to be a part of some cool teams, multiple Hockey Canada teams, and then some other special teams as well. So I think, keeping those jerseys and just having something physical to look back on is a pretty cool thing.
Now, do you hang them up, or are they all kind of put aside until maybe your career's done, and then you'll start worrying about where you're going to put them away?
Yeah, no, I actually, my mom did a great job. She framed a couple in my bedroom back home and actually ran out of wall space. So we got got a small pile building up now that, one day we'll take care of that.
Now, how much do you enjoy? This is a bit of a segue, but how much do you enjoy those Moose specialty jerseys? Because one of the things that I think the American Hockey League, and in particular the Manitoba Moose, do well is those specialty jerseys. So when you get a chance to kind of meld something new from, again, I like the jerseys are nice that you wear regularly, but when you get a chance to wear those 4 or 5 times a year, do you like wearing them, and do you tend to keep those as a memento?
Oh, I love wearing those. Yeah, no, it's something that I think is pretty cool. We only did a couple of them in junior, but now seeing here, how big of a deal that is for not only the players but the fans and and of course the reasons behind the jerseys as well. So
Yeah.
I haven't kept any of them yet, but I think a lot of the times they'll auction off the game worn jerseys for
Yeah.
whatever cause it is. But that's something that I definitely look into collecting in the future.
So in terms of rituals, goalies we know are ritualistic. You have a lot of tendencies. Are you a pregame ritual kind of guy? And if so, and if you want to share them, you're welcome to do so.
Honestly, this year, or pretty much since I've been playing, I've tried to stay away from superstitions or rituals.
Yeah.
I've got a few things that I like to do, but I think that's something that I had to learn was just adjusting to the pro hockey schedule and junior as well. It's tough. There's flights all the time, bus rides, and you might not have the perfect night's sleep the night before, or enough time before the game to do every single thing you want to do. So I think just being able to play regardless of the circumstance, whether you're comfortable or uncomfortable, is something that helped me out a lot this year.
Nice. Okay. Well, I got a question about your mask, and it was funny because your mask today at development camp was drawing some speculation. I said, well, no, leave it. I'm going to ask Thomas about it later. So I don't want you guys to ruin the good stuff if they were going to try and interview you today. But it's a unique creation, a goalie's mask. It's kind of an opportunity to express yourself in a certain way. Some guys do, some guys don't. Some guys let their goalie mask designer design everything and have no input. Others, don't. We see it with Connor Hellebuck, Jets' #1 goaltender. He obviously often has his dog. He has fishing on it. Those are kind of his two things that we often see with him. What about with you? You play a big role in terms of what your mask design, and then the second follow-up question I have is, I noticed that you had a minion on your helmet today, and then I noticed there was like almost like a little footprint and a G in last year's helmet. I didn't think I saw it today, but in terms of your own helmet, maybe you can let people know what the symbolism is behind that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as far as the design goes, I'm not the most creative person, but I definitely like to have a little bit of input on it. My mask painter, Noah Ennis, who works with Shell Shock, he knocks it out of the park every single time, and he did all my Seattle masks as well. So, I have a lot of trust in him. I'll give him some basic ideas, but he kind of takes the reins from there and always kills it. So, I'll leave a lot of the design to him. But as far as the personal details, that's something that I like to put on the back plate. Like you said, I've got a couple of things. I've got the minions on there. This year I just have the one that plays guitar. I play guitar, so that's the meaning behind that. But the minion was something I started doing with my first mask when I got it in Seattle. And, I just saw the reaction. It was actually because I love the movie Minions and Despicable Me,
Yeah.
But now just seeing how much the kids love it, I'll be in warm-up skating around the glass, and they're they're super excited about it. So I think that's something that I'll keep for a while. And then, yeah, so on the other thing is a paw print on the back of the helmet with the
Mm-hmm.
letter G. So that was for my old dog, George.
Okay.
And, it's kind of just a symbolism of family for me. He was our family dog growing up. And, whenever I see it, it just reminds me of my parents and my sister and, how lucky I am to have them.
Oh, nice. Okay. I figured it was a paw print, but I thought like I was zooming in on our photo and I wasn't 100% certain. So I figured I'd ask you. You mentioned something about kids and, obviously the minions and that sort of thing. But what's it like having fans? What's it like having young kids? And I saw there was a picture of you at the bench talking to, like the fan who gets to watch you guys come out for warm up at Moose games. So what's it like to be able to have that sort of impact, to think, you're making your mark, but you're also having such an impact on another generation of young fans who are now Thomas Milic fans, that sort of thing. So what's it like for you to have sort of that sort of, again, and I know you had a fan base in Seattle. Trust me, I hear it from the folks in Seattle all the time who still love you there. But from that perspective, that idea of people who support you and respect you because of what you do.
It's a pretty incredible thing, really, having that many kids that look up to you and, just get so excited to see you out there. So I think it really just stems from, I remember being their age and going to a hockey game, whether it was a junior A game or a Canucks game growing up in Vancouver, and, just being starstruck by the players and, how cool it was when one of them would, take a half second just to, give you a smile or make a small interaction with you. And, that's something that I know I valued as a kid and will never forget. So if I can make some of those same memories for these kids, I'm going to do it every chance I get.
Well, we were talking about development camp and you're a past WHL goaltender of the year. You've got a past OHL goaltender of the year in Dominic DiVincentis. So what's it like from your perspective for you guys to kind of, again, it's that learning experience. You're growing together as professional hockey players. He's turning pro this year. It looks like he's going to kind of maybe take your path where he'll probably, most likely, we don't know yet, but we'll start in the ECHL. So what's it like for you though, to have him as a resource and kind of a young goaltender who's learning about becoming a pro?
Yeah, you're totally right. He's someone that, I think we sort of have that same healthy competition where, we're best friends away from the rink. We're actually rooming together right now at the hotel, but
Oh, nice.
we, Dom's awesome. We can talk about anything and, especially hockey related things. We love to just sit aside and, pick apart certain details of the game and talk about it forever. So, he's someone that, obviously we're in similar areas of our career right now, just getting started. So I think just being able to share that experience with someone else and also push each other to be better every day is really valuable for the both of us.
Thomas, one of the things you mentioned was the difference in ages of some of the guys on the team, different stages of life, if you will. And you've got guys from last year's team, like Jimmy Olney, who's the captain, who, has a family. And then you've got younger guys like yourself, Chaz Lucius, Brad Lambert, who are just kind of getting their feet wet in terms of turning pro and becoming, full-time professionals. So what was it like for you though, to be part of this group? Because one of the things I've documented for years now with Manitoba, covering them, is how close this group was. And next year is going to be a little different because a lot of the guys that made that group so close have moved on. Guys like Jeff Malott, guys like Christian Reichel, Kyle Capobianco left. So from your perspective, maybe a couple thoughts. Number one, what kind of impact did those guys have on your career? And number two, how nice was it to be part of this group that, again, as far as I could tell, and I'm not obviously a member of the team, I'm just a media guy, but it seemed like a very inclusive team that really cared about each other.
Yeah, like I said, I pretty much had that sense of belonging from, the first day I was called up last season and, the camps last summer as well. But I think just having those guys on the team was huge for us. They're, they know that they have the ability to make a strong impact on young guys because I'm sure they had some great leaders when they were first getting into the league. But, that's something that I know when I get to that point in my career, I'm going to do my very best to, have the same impact that they had on a guy like me.
I got to ask you about your relationship with Tyrell Bauer because, every time I mention you to him, if I'm doing an interview, he calls you Tommy. He gets so excited. He's always the first guy after a win to give you a big hug. Obviously, you guys were teammates in Seattle. What's it been like having someone like him in your corner, both literally, or sometimes in front of you, I should say literally, but just also as a friend and as a guy who's so supportive and has so much confidence in your ability, just in terms of, well, obviously as a person, but also as a netminder.
Yeah, it's pretty special having a guy like him, in my corner, like you said. And, going back to Seattle days, I remember being 15 years old, going to my first, they had sort of a development camp for the Thunderbirds there. And, he was the first guy that, really went out of his way to, make me feel welcomed and introduce himself. And, from that moment on, we just gelled right away. And he's someone that I have an awesome relationship with. And, like you said, when I got here as well, he was a guy that, really stepped up and made me feel welcome and showed me the ropes as well. So, just being able to have him, he's awesome. Can't really say much else about him other than just awesome.
So I guess the question now is we're pretty much at the end, looking forward to the, again, like I said, you guys are heading back out to BC. You come from BC. Now you're going back out to BC. But what are you looking forward to in your second year as a pro? What's kind of like I don't know if you're a goal setter or if you just kind of have a generalized idea as to what you want to get done and what you want to accomplish, but kind of in your mind, what is kind of your focus for year number 2 for Thomas Milic?
Yeah, for me, it's, really just about earning it every single day. I'm not someone who tries to look too far ahead into the season or, beyond the season even. So just being able to do everything I can every day to, continue to prove my role here and, obviously have some success as well at the end of the day.
And in terms of what have you learned? Because people in Winnipeg love hearing what someone has learned about living in the city. So from your perspective, what have you learned after a year here in the Peg?
I don't know. I think the biggest thing is it's just a lot of fun and, just being a part of a city that supports their sports team so well, especially, the Jets and the Moose. It's, something that I'm super grateful for. And, I'm going to do everything I can to keep giving them reasons to cheer.
All right, Thomas. Well, we wish you the best of luck. It's, training camp is around the corner. So Jets fans will get a chance. Moose fans will get a chance to see you soon enough in game action. We thank you for joining us as part of the IC Summer Series.
Right on. I appreciate it.